Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody can settle down and have no problems with the connection, any technical problems. I'm very delighted to welcome to you all our speakers, our panelists, and our participants to the launch event for the Climate Finance Accelerator Program Turkey. My name is Özge Yılmaz. As part of the Turkish delivery partner, Ekodenge, I will be moderating this event. So before we start, let us give you some information about the event and the Zoom platform. Can we move the slide, please? All right. So for your information, the entire event will be recorded. To ensure your name is displayed correctly, please enter your first name and the second name and your organization. To change it, you can click on the participants in the menu to open the participants window, and then hover yourself and click on the more, and then you can change your name by renaming. All the attendees' microphones are muted, but the host will unmute you if you are called upon to speak. For the duration of the event, you can submit questions using the chat function at the bottom center of the screen. Please ensure your questions are sent to Esra Koç from Ekodenge team, and the moderator will then respond to them during the Q&A session. There will be some poll questions during the event. We have 3 of them, and to submit your responses, so they will be pop-up windows in front of you. They will appear in that way. And to submit your responses, please click on the multiple choice options displayed within the Zoom window. If you experience any technical issues, please use the chat function and send your message to Thomas Harold from Ricardo team, who will reply to you in privately. We can move. We also have simultaneous interpretation throughout the event. You can select which language you would like to hear the meeting interpretation. So for that, please click on the interpretation tool on the menu bar. Then you will select the language you would like to listen in. You will then hear the interpreter speaking your selected language as well as the original meeting audio at the lower volume. If you don't want to hear the original audio, you can turn it off, and then you can only hear the interpreter. From the screen, you will see the interpretation, but you will see 2 choices, English and German. Please select German for the Turkish interpretation. Yes, please. Before we move on to the speakers, I would like to give you a very brief introduction of our agenda today. So our agenda will include the introduction to the CFA program and the activities in Turkey, and then a presentation on the Turkey's climate finance landscape and the potential gaps in the supply chain by sector. And then we will have a very fruitful panel discussion on the barriers and opportunities to climate finance and project implementation in Turkey, which will be followed by a question and answer session, which you will have the opportunity to address your questions to our panelists. And also, we are today very happy to announce the call for proposals for this event, which you will receive information within this event. We will close the event with some final remarks. So now for the welcome speech, I would like to invite Marianne Young, Minister Counselor and Deputy Head of Mission for Turkey. The floor is yours.
Thank you, dear Regional Ambassador, dear Deputy Director, project team and participants. Good afternoon. It is a great pleasure to join you today to launch the Climate Finance Accelerator, or the CFA, in Turkey. The CFA is a technical assistance programme led by the UK's Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, and it's great to welcome colleagues from that ministry and the CFA team to provide more information about this programme. I'll leave the detailed remarks about the programme to them, but I believe the CFA can play a key role in improving Turkey's climate finance ecosystem and strengthening the ground for financing low-emission projects. This is a key topic for Turkey, not just for the environment, but for the economy too. As the British Embassy, we're delighted to support the CFA in Turkey, and I'd like to especially thank the Ministry of Environment and Urbanisation and all the other institutions who provide their valuable contributions to the programme. I also congratulate the delivery teams, both in London and in Turkey, for the great effort so far and wish them all the best throughout the programme implementation. So at the start of today's events, I'd like to say a few words about how the CFA fits into the wider picture of UK climate support. This year, the UK is hosting a major international UN climate conference, COP26, in Glasgow this November. We now have less than 5 months before this starts, and as the upcoming COP presidency, the UK is determined to increase climate ambition and put clean recovery at the heart of global efforts to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. To drive this, the UK has 4 key priorities for COP26, which the CFA can help us meet. The first is increasing mitigation efforts. We need greater ambition in lowering our greenhouse gas emissions and moving to a low carbon economy. From the conversations we've had here in Turkey, it's clear that businesses are considering their carbon emissions and want to transition to a cleaner path. The CFA can provide very practical support to businesses and industry seeking to do this. Linked to this, the second priority is adaptation. Now, Turkey suffered 984 extreme weather events last year. Climate change is impacting agriculture, tourism, industry, and many other sectors. And in countries as vulnerable as Turkey, we need to reflect and adjust business practices. The third priority is to mobilise finance, and this has the most obvious link to the CFA. I'll avoid touching upon the wider multilateral finance issues that Turkey has, but globally, we're seeing investors consider green credentials in a way that's not happened before. To support Turkey's low carbon transition, the CFA can unlock the private sector potential for Turkey by helping access to finance. And the final priority is collaboration, and today embodies this. Yes, a large part of COP26 is focused on government negotiations, but it's actually businesses, investors, and consumers who will deliver the change. So one of the reasons I'm excited about the CFA is that it brings together different stakeholders and delivers real-world change. At the British Embassy, climate change is a top priority. It's right at the top of the UK government's agenda. And the CFA is just one of the ways that we're working to promote climate action in Turkey. We're also having open, honest conversations with the government of Turkey about issues like the Paris Agreement and international climate negotiations. And we're increasing our understanding of areas where Turkey is excelling, like renewable energy and energy efficiency. In these areas, we're keen to encourage further global leadership by Turkey. We've also been exchanging views and promoting wider conversations with other key climate stakeholders. We've held events with NGOs, think tanks, academic, and youth and women's groups. And we want to learn from them about what Turkey does well and where we can collaborate more. We're also working closely with cities and regions to promote their crucial role in climate action. We've run training for municipalities and have a Global Future Cities programme to support sustainable urban transport in Turkey. And we hope to do much more of this before COP26 and beyond. And finally, we're working with businesses and the private sector. And I hope to share more news on this agenda with you soon. We want to promote the real world action that businesses can deliver and are delivering. And this action is at the heart of what it takes to keep global warming below the 1.5 degrees that we want. And it's at the core of what the CFA is hoping to achieve in Turkey. So to conclude, I welcome you all again to the launch event of the CFA programme in Turkey and wish you a fruitful meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne Young, for your welcome speech. We appreciate your support for the CFA Turkey a lot. Now, I would like to leave the floor to Jenny McInnes from Department of Business, Energy, Industry and Strategy from the UK. Please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. It's fantastic to be here, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by the Ekodenge team, colleagues from the British and Turkish government, and esteemed partners for the launch of the Climate Finance Accelerator programme in Turkey. I'm Jenny McInnes. I'm the Deputy Director for BEI's International Climate Finance, and the Climate Finance Accelerator is a really important part of the work that we're doing. The CFA is part of our UK and global efforts to take action at the right scale this decade by providing practical ways to enable partner countries to finance and deliver their national climate plans, their NDCs. The UK is funding this programme because we recognise that access to finance is key for the world to transition to net zero. The scale of the investment needed to remain within 1.5 degrees of warming since pre-industrial levels cannot be met by public money alone, and yet significant barriers to securing private investment for low carbon projects remain. We regularly hear from countries that the shortage of projects able to attract investment for large scale implementation is a significant barrier to climate action, and the CFA seeks to address just this. With its hands-on delivery approach, it aims to identify lasting ways to increase finance into low carbon sectors. Through technical support, it provides countries with an effective model for leveraging private capital at scale in a way that's required to develop the competitive low carbon economies which attract FDI, generate jobs and promote long-term prosperity. Between 2017 and 2020, BEI's funded pilot CFA activities involving Nigeria, Colombia and Mexico, and we really are delighted to now be launching in Turkey as part of a global £10 million programme. So as Marianne said, a key component of the CFA is collaboration, and the CFA seeks to enable a collaborative approach towards identifying and addressing obstacles to the financing of low carbon projects. It brings together different groups who have the skills and the means to get projects ready for investment, make changes to the enabling environment, and ultimately increase the flows of finance. The CFA acts as a convener and facilitator and encourages public-private collaboration. It brings together project developers and those who might potentially finance projects, the financiers, or change the system, the policymakers, so that climate finance can flow more easily. And I'm really pleased to see that this collaboration is already starting today with this launch event, bringing together all of you who are key actors across different parts of the climate finance landscape in Turkey. A core principle of the CFA is that it is locally owned and driven, and we really recognise that the routes to success differ across the countries we are working in, and that the support provided through the CFA must adapt to Turkey's needs. And we're delighted, therefore, to have our Turkish partner Ekodenge leading delivery for this very reason, supported by PwC and Ricardo, who are managing the global programme. This consortium will ensure that CFA is demand-led while having the benefits of an international programme and capitalising on the rich expertise that exists in the City of London. The CFA is part of the UK's commitment to provide 11.6 billion international climate finance over the next 5 years. That's 11.6 billion pounds. It's our first bilateral international climate finance programme in Turkey, and we're delighted to be commencing this collaboration and look forward to working together in partnership to ensure that the programme is responding to Turkey's needs. It comes at a very good time and fits extremely well with the UK's COP26 presidency, and I see that David Moran has joined the call and will be speaking next on some of our priorities for that, which is fantastic. To maximise the CFA's impact and reach, we're keen to work alongside other partners and programmes, particularly those who can help to crowd in investment into our projects or to implement the enabling environment recommendations that will be identified through the CFA process. So it's great to see some of our other development partners joining this event for that reason. Today marks the start of the CFA process, and we're really pleased to launch a call for proposals today for projects which we will continue to support over the coming year. The call will be used by the CFA team to select a short list of climate mitigation projects which will contribute to Turkey's climate ambitions, and the CFA team will provide more information on this shortly. I'll turn back to Ozge at Ekodenge to introduce our next speaker. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you very much, Deni. As a Ekodenge team, we are also very excited to be part of the CFA program and help create new partnerships in Turkey. Our final welcome speech will be from Mr. David Moran, who is the COP26 Regional Ambassador for Central Asia, Turkey and Iran. Mr. Moran, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted, and I have to say somewhat relieved to be able to join you, since I've had connection problems for the past 15 minutes. Can I just check that you can hear me, please?
We can hear you perfectly.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm very pleased to join this launch of the Climate Finance Accelerator in Turkey. Now, the previous speakers have done an excellent job of covering much of the ground. So what I'm going to do is recover some of that, but perhaps add a little perspective from my role as a COP26 regional ambassador who covers Turkey. I say that this launch comes at an excellent time and fits extremely well with the UK COP26 presidency's overall priorities. The November Glasgow summit is an important moment for the world to come together and demonstrate that we're serious about the goals that we all agreed to in Paris. Now, our mission as a UK presidency is to deliver an inclusive and ambitious summit with an outcome that's supported by every country and across society. And my role as a regional ambassador is to work with you and other partners to achieve this. Now, as the Deputy Ambassador has said, we have 4 overarching and interconnected goals. I mean, obviously the COP26 process is very broad, but it boils down to this: the mitigation, the effective action to keep the planet's temperature under control, adaptation, helping countries and vulnerable communities hit by climate change, collaboration, including engaging with civil society and young people, and the one most relevant to today's events, increasing climate finance. And the UK presidency is working very hard to ensure that developed economies deliver on our finance commitments, climate finance commitments that will help emerging economies to mitigate and adapt to the impacts of climate change and pursue clean economic growth. And we, the UK, have doubled our own international climate finance contribution to £11.6 billion over 5 years. And additionally, ahead of COP26, we must work to unleash the trillions of dollars that are needed to reach global net zero. Now, public funds can catalyze much larger funds, the volumes of private finance needed to facilitate the low carbon transition. And I'm very pleased to say that Turkey is well placed to benefit from this through the Climate Finance Accelerator. Its workshops and capacity building offer practical opportunities for project developers, financiers, and policymakers to work together to identify how best to get capital flowing to low carbon technologies, turning potential investment opportunities into fully funded projects. And importantly, it will back projects and improve access to finance that supports local involvement in the green economy and creates jobs. So a key objective is to help you to embed a permanent CFA process for developing a pipeline of investable projects that in turn reduce emissions. And if you remember one thing out of this presentation, it's my next sentence, please. The UK is committed to supporting Turkey. As the regional ambassador, I'll continue to work to ensure that your voices are heard and that we respond appropriately, both as COP president and as a bilateral development partner. And I hope to return in person very soon. I look forward to discussing further with you how to ensure alignment between our work and how to make a success of both the program and COP26 in general. Thank you. I look forward to also hearing the panel discussion and the other presentations later on. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. We are very happy that despite some technical problems, you are able to join us. And we are also looking forward to meeting you in person and other opportunities to discuss with you. So now it's time for me to introduce Ian Milborough to give information on the CFA Turkey. Ian is a partner in PwC UK's Sustainability and Climate Change practice, where he runs a number of climate finance and policy initiatives internationally. He joins us today in his capacity of leading PwC's delivery of the Climate Finance Accelerator program. Ian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ojga, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome from me, and thank you for joining us today. My thanks to Deputy Ambassador Marianne, Jenny and David for setting the scene on what the CFA is all about and wishing us well on our journey. So I'm Ian Milborough, partner at PwC, and I've been working on climate finance for about 15 years or so. And what I'd like to do over the next 10 minutes is to give you a bit of context on CFA, how it has evolved as a concept over the years, and what it will involve for Turkey. So if we have the slide there, please. Thank you. Looking back 6 years, the historic Paris Agreement pledged to mobilize $100 billion per year around climate finance, particularly to support middle-income and developing countries in their decarbonization journey. And around that time, the CFA concept was developed by two British financiers, Ian Callaghan and the late Tessa Tennant, who recognized that there were considerable barriers to connect capital to climate projects that would do good things. In particular, the CFA approach stems from the need to develop pipelines of so-called bankable climate finance projects. So projects that are commercially viable, but also move us forward in terms of decarbonization. And the view underpinning the CFA concept was that there was often a mismatch between the ideas and aspirations of project developers and the language and requirements of financiers, those providers of capital, and different forms of capital, as we know, of debt, of equity, and other instruments. And CFA, at its heart, is all around bridging that gap and joining those, making those connections. So as illustrated in this slide, and as mentioned by Jenny in her remarks, CFA pilot activities took place in various countries over the period 2017 to 2019. UK government funded this work and then saw the potential to scale the initiative to something bigger. And in 2020, the CFA program was launched. PwC in its role is the overall program lead, and we're delighted to be working with Ricardo, who bring deep technical expertise in thinking through those kinds of projects that might be originated in the Turkish market, and Ekodenge, who combine their technical and economic expertise with that knowledge of policy conditions here in the Turkish market. Next slide, please. So what are the challenges that the CFA is actually trying to address? This slide tries to illustrate where the program will focus. CFA recognizes that there are three main climate finance challenges, and we will focus on the last two, so let me comment on those in turn. The first, as you see in the center of the diagram here in blue, is the insufficient pipeline of bankable projects. And this is a situation that I've seen all over the world, and I'm sure will be apparent also in the Turkish market. So CFA will offer support to project proponents developers to make their projects more bankable. So what does that mean? It's about thinking through technical and financial feasibility and structuring a project in a way that makes it interesting for funders who want to then understand the concept and hopefully invest in the project. And in the second area, in the grey box to the right, about how to access finance more broadly. In some ways, this is related to the first point, but this is really about the matching agenda I mentioned earlier, creating those connections between project proponents and financiers. So see the CFA as providing a convening function, both in the Turkish market and with the City of London, as mentioned by former speakers. And it's important to say that the CFA team and UK government clearly recognise that there are what we call enabling environment challenges, those on the dark blue box there, that can be addressed through that convening power, as David mentioned, involving policymakers, but the CFA particularly focuses on those recommendations around how to take some of those barriers and move them forward over the project development cycle. If we move on, please. So this slide expands a little bit on those objectives of what the CFA is about. It's a 4-year program, as Jenny mentioned, and it's going to be working in 8 middle-income countries. And personally, I'm delighted that Turkey has been chosen. I've travelled to Turkey many years, on many occasions through my life, and I'm sincerely hoping that the pandemic eases and that we're able to visit again over the balance of the year or next year. It's really going to be working to support local project financiers develop a sustainable project pipeline, identify suitable financing, and importantly as well, in that final step, contribute to embedding a more permanent CFA process in the country to help countries finance their INDCs or NDCs. This is important since stimulating flows of climate finance will be critical for years to come. And then if you look at the 3 items in the green box there, the CFA is really targeting and working with 3 priority stakeholder groups. Firstly, as I mentioned, project proponents, those who want to target finance for their projects and develop them to a state of maturity where they can be looked at by financiers. The finance community themselves, who want to understand what innovative projects are out there. And I've had the privilege to work in many parts of the world where truly innovative projects are happening in on-grid energy, off-grid energy, waste, and adaptation and resilience projects. And many of those are moving along that path to bankability. And finally, policymakers. I'm delighted that I think we're joined by representatives from Turkish ministries today. And in their minds, they would like to understand the challenges facing both those 2 previous communities, the project developers and the financiers, and take those thoughts and use them to improve the enabling environment for climate finance. So that's the CFA at its heart. If you can move forward, please. So this slide wants to illustrate that there are 6 core phases to what we'll be doing in Turkey. The first phase is scoping, where the climate finance landscape, the demand and supply of finance in Turkey is mapped and the various stakeholders identified and engaged with to see where they are in terms of their priorities. Then we have an in-country process where proposals are selected for support by the CFA team. As mentioned, this will involve a call for proposals, and we're excited to launch that today. And selected projects will then benefit from support from my team, from PwC, from Ricardo and Ekodenge, accessing a huge range of international expertise of developing these projects. That will then lead through to an in-country event, bringing together those different proponents, those different communities, as I mentioned earlier. And we are hoping, COVID permitting, that this could take place in the final quarter of the year, either in person or virtually. The fourth step is an event we've done in the past, which is really the matching process as well. So bringing a selection of projects to London to network and benefit from capacity building with financiers and practitioners from the City of London. As you may know, climate finance and green finance has really a huge depth in the City of London. Many progressive institutions are looking to finance projects, and that networking event will bring those communities together. And finally, there's a CFA conference at the end of the programme, bringing together representatives from all of the CFA countries in the initiative, those countries on the right-hand side of the chart. That provides an opportunity to really share experiences from across the program and again, enhance networks, sharing of experience and technologies, financing approaches, etc. And finally, I mentioned earlier about the importance of trying to embed the CFA process in Turkey over the longer term. This is stage 6 on the chart above. The idea is to create or support a secretariat that can then deliver the CFA process on a more permanent basis. And we welcome those conversations with key stakeholders in Turkey about the best options that would work in that way. And then finally, just on the logistics of the overall program for interest, there are 8 countries overall split into 3 waves, 3 that have undergone certain phases of the CFA program in the past, so Nigeria, Colombia, and Mexico, and 3 new countries that which we supported across all the phases illustrated in that chart. So Turkey is here today, complemented by Peru and South Africa. And then there'll be 2 other countries that BEIS and UK government will decide to work with in due course. And finally, next slide, please. Perhaps the most important element that many of you have joined this conference call to hear about is how the CFA will support you if you are a project developer. And this slide tries to summarize what the CFA team will provide. We'll provide support to project proponents, including project assessment, evaluating or commenting on technical and commercial feasibility. There'll be the capacity building events, as I mentioned, and then the opportunity to establish relationships both across the program and with other programs as well. Specifically, depending on the needs of the projects we get, proponents will benefit from access to investors, coaching, networking opportunities, and generally increased national visibility for what they're trying to get off the ground. Support will also be provided on the practical aspects of developing projects, the tools, templates, and particularly pro formas that financiers will need to see them get interested in your ideas. So in closing, I hope that this gives you a feel for the objectives of the program and how it is going to be run. So to build on this, I'd like to invite Dr. Barış Karapinar from Ekodenge to provide some context for the climate finance landscape here in Turkey specifically. Thank you, Barış.
Thank you, Ian. Before Barış just starts his presentation, I'm sure there might be other questions about the program, and as a Turkish delivery partner, we are always happy to support Turkish project proponents and stakeholders about the program itself. And just a brief introduction of Dr. Barış Karapınar. He's an associate professor of climate change economics and policy. Currently, he leads the policy team of the Climate Bonds Initiative in London. He also works as a senior consultant and economist at FAO, UNIDO, and UNDP. He has served as a lead author of the IPCC's 5th assessment report, and he currently serves as a reviewer for the assessment report 6. Thank you very much, Ian, for your presentation, and Barış Hocam, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Özge. Thanks, Ian, for setting a good background for me. Well, I would like to provide a brief update on climate change and climate finance in Turkey. The expectation that this would set a background for our panel discussion after the session. Next slide, please. In the run-up to COP26, we start from the pledges. Turkey is a signatory party to the Paris Agreement, but it has not ratified the agreement yet. Before COP21 in Paris, Turkey had submitted its nationally determined contributions, aiming at 21% reduction compared to its projected 2030 emissions, covering all sectors excluding land use related emissions. And it's in the process of developing its 2050 targets. Next slide, please. A brief update on macroeconomic indicators, very general. It's a middle income country, obviously, around $10,000 per capita income, 85 million population, growing population, I should say. Growth rate of GDP, 1.8% in 2020. Obviously, it has been affected severely by the current COVID-led economic crisis like the rest of the world. which also has an impact on its emissions as well, which we are going to cover briefly. Share of renewable share of electricity generation is around 42% at the moment. And in total energy consumption, renewable share is around 8%. Given the fact that this project is also about providing impact or generating impact on other issues relating to environment and climate change, including gender inclusion, social resilience, and so on, we wanted to add a few social indicators here as well in relation to gender. For example, the proportion of women in managerial positions in industry around 11%, in services 23%. This is obviously just an example in relation to a few social indicators. Next slide, please. Again, briefly, GDP composition by sector, which also relevant in relation to Turkey's greenhouse gas emission profile. Industry accounts for around 22% of overall GDP. It's a service-led economy, 23%, and finance accounts for around 4% of Turkey's GDP. Next slide, please. Turkey's emissions have been increasing over the last 20 years. We have observed around 150% increase in overall emissions, mainly led by the energy sector, here on blue, fossil fuels, and then we have a share of industrial processing related emissions. And Turkey is also offers significant sink capacity in relation to emissions, as you could see in the negative here, almost covering its entire emissions in relation to agriculture. So we have a net emissions of zero almost in land-related emissions, including agriculture. So offers a big potential in soil, agriculture, and forest-related emissions as a sector. Next slide, please. Moving on to energy supplies by source, as we already covered, it's a fossil fuel led energy supply in terms of its sources. But in recent years, we have increased wind and solar supplies in total energy as well. In relation to electricity, next slide, please. The share of renewables has been growing rapidly over the last 10 years or so. Hydro has always been strong in Turkey, currently around 23-24% of total installed capacity. Wind and solar they have increased their share, especially over the last 5 years, currently around 17 gigawatt of installed capacity comes from wind and solar only. Next slide, please. This is Turkey's intended nationally determined contributions, which it had submitted before COP21 in Paris. As you could see, Turkey projected a relatively fast growth of its emissions by 2030. And as compared to its projected 2030 emissions, it committed to reducing its emissions by 21% on the projected 2030 emissions. But we are already around here, around 500 million tons of emissions. And obviously, as a result of the impact of COVID, Turkey's emissions last year have also declined. In industry, we estimate that it was reduced by around 15 million tons only in the industry sector last year because of the impact of COVID. So we are around this line already with the emission trajectory as we make progress in the next coming decade. Next slide, please. Turkey has set its sectoral targets as part of its INDC. It has an energy target of around reaching 26 gigawatt of installed capacity in solar And wind, as I said, it has already reached the level of 17 gigawatts. So it's it's making good progress based on its own targets in renewable energy. It has set a target of improving its energy efficiency by 15% in 2030, and it has building efficiency related targets as well. Next slide, please. Transportation sector's targets are mainly related to railroads and increasing share of seaways in transportation. Railroad passenger transportation share target is around 10% by 2023, and then transportation related targets are also set for seaways as well. Agriculture related emissions are around reducing agricultural greenhouse gas emissions through increasing energy efficiency and using renewable energy sources for agricultural production. Next slide, please. And then Turkey has also set targets in relation to using waste for energy production and reducing its landfill sites and uncontrolled waste disposal. Next slide, please. There has been initiatives mainly driven by the World Bank and other multilateral development banks in Turkey to develop Turkey's carbon pricing mechanism in relation to European Union ETS and beyond. As we all know, European Union ETS has made increasingly interesting progress over the last year or so, despite the overall economic slowdown. We have seen that carbon prices within the ETS have increased dramatically. Record level as of this month, the price of carbon reached the level of 60 euros per ton, which also obviously has implications for Turkey, European Union being a major market for Turkey's industrial and other goods. And then there is this discussion about carbon border tax adjustments, a new deal with the Turkey's trade arrangement, customs union with the European Union. I know that that issue is quite high on the agenda of the UK as well. But in relation to climate and border tax adjustments, Turkey is potentially going to be affected by developments in relation to ETS in Europe and also its own carbon pricing developments domestically as well. Next slide, please. This is a framework that we've developed at Climate Bonds Initiative to assess the policy framework for climate finance. We apply this to many different countries, including Turkey as well. We identify that these 5 pillars, policy pillars, are very important in setting a policy framework that is conducive for the development of green finance or climate finance in a country, and so that the barriers are avoided and opportunities are available. Setting an ambition transition pathway at the country level, national level, and at the sector level is very important, so that the other stakeholders and partners are aligned and sectors are aligned. And then aligning public and fiscal spending is an important component to it. So the tax and spending regulation and practices need to be aligned with those transition targets as well. Increasing market transparency at the government and the sector level is quite key. Therefore, ESG developments, which are very important at the sector level, which are growing in Turkey as well, environmental and social and governance related standards and disclosures are developing in Turkey at the private sector level, which is quite important. And stimulating green finance through sovereign bonds, or allowing or enabling corporations and municipalities to raise their own green bonds is quite important. And obviously managing climate related financial risks, physical risks at the national level, sector level is quite important as a pillar of a sustainable finance framework. Next slide, please. Again, as other speakers have already mentioned, there is huge opportunities that are growing around the world despite the despite the economic crisis. This is the data we gather at Climate Bonds Initiative. Overall, we've reached the $1 trillion mark by last year in relation to the volume of sustainability, social and green bonds around the world. Mainly developed countries, also China, are leading this field. And in terms of the sectors, huge level or huge amounts are issued in energy, buildings, transportation. So there is a growing demand for green, social and sustainability bonds, huge opportunities there. And we hope that Turkey is going to benefit from those opportunities. And we also hope that we're going to be able to communicate those opportunities through this project to a range of stakeholders within Turkey as well. Next slide, please. We have identified through our work at Ekodenge and our partners as part of this project, we have identified key stakeholders in Turkey. Some of them are here attending this meeting as well. Our key partners, obviously, policymakers, various ministries, including Ministry of Environment and Urbanization, Energy, Technology. Ministry of Treasury and Finance is a very important stakeholder here. Ministry of Trade as well, because of the issues very much related to Turkey's export markets as well, and food and agriculture, especially in relation to developing resilience and benefiting from the opportunities in relation to the land sector as well. Obviously, we are going to be working hopefully with the financing community, investment banks, local international commercial banks, which are increasingly aware of the importance of sustainable finance in Turkey, international finance institutions like EBRD, World Bank, IFC, and others. Venture capitalists, again, there's a growing interest from investors to invest in green bankable projects in Turkey as well. Stock exchange, Borsa Istanbul, already has developed a green index. We feel that they are going to be an important component of this dialogue. Fund managers, intermediaries, treasury aid agencies, and so on, and bond certification agencies and rating agencies, they are also important components. In terms of project proponents that we're trying to target and inform, obviously enterprises, Turkey's entrepreneurial landscape is very dynamic, increasing number of startups who are interested in the field of sustainable investments. We would like to hopefully inform them and have them as part of our project here. Industrial companies, municipalities, incubators, energy and climate-related NGOs, and academia are potential project proponents. We have enabling environment-related actors, central bank. There's a growing, obviously, agenda there, led also by Bank of England in the UK and internationally. Hopefully, Turkey's central bank will join that dialogue as well in relation to the role of central banks in promoting sustainable finance. Banking regulators, capital markets boards of Turkey, and then we also have obviously civil society partners, especially in relation to the private sector like TÜSİAD, TOB, who have recently made important announcements in relation to their demand for Turkey to join the Paris Agreement or ratify the Paris Agreement, for example. And there are other think tanks and NGOs that we would like to reach out as well. So these are the main stakeholder community. We have an extensive mapping exercise, and hopefully we're going to be reaching them out to get good projects, bankable projects, and also help those project developers to develop their own financial strategy, so that at the end of the day, we very much hope that we're going to have many successful, potentially successful projects submitted in Turkey, qualified for the final round in London, so that we could help them meet potential investors, which then help Turkey in its climate transition as we move forward. Thanks very much.
Barış Hocam, thank you very much for your presentation. We have very limited time today, but still we would like to get your opinions from the audience. So we will present you some poll questions. Right now we will present you 2 poll questions. You will have some limited time just to make sure to select the multiple choice questions from your screen, and then we will be able to share the results with you. So our first question is about the type of barriers that are most significant in your opinion that are hindering the climate finance flows in Turkey. So the choices can be policy, regulatory or institutional, financial, economic, technology markets, information capacity, or social, cultural, or behavior. So let's see. So we can see that the most important barriers are considered as policy, regulatory, and institutional, followed by the financial and economic barriers. And also information and capacity barriers are also mentioned. We can share the second poll question. And the second one is about the sectors in Turkey which could benefit the most from the CFA program. We have the power, transportation, agricultural, water, and circular economy sectors. Thank you for your answers. So we can see that the power sector comes as a priority sector in Turkey that can benefit from the CFA. And we can also see that the CFA can also support the circular economy attempts in Turkey, which are right now getting more and more widespread. We also see some agriculture and transportation related answers. So thank you for your answers in the poll. Now I will pass on to our panel. So it is my great pleasure to introduce our panel speakers today. We are delighted to have them on board today. They will be discussing the barriers and opportunities to climate finance and project implementation in Turkey. So I will be introducing our speakers, panels one by one, and then I will pass on to our first discussion topic. Our first speaker is Laurent Debreu from World Bank Group. He's the World Bank's program leader for sustainable development in Turkey. Laurent, a Belgian national, holds a PhD in forest management from the University of Liège, Belgium, and an associate degree in law from the University of Louvain-la-Neuve, again in Belgium. With the World Bank since 2000, Laurent has been leading policy dialogue projects and partnerships on forests, environment, agriculture, and climate change in Central Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East. Laurent joined the Turkey program in 2020, and as the program leader, he coordinates the bank's engagement in a range of sectors, including urban development, disaster risk management, social inclusion, water, agriculture, environment, and climate change. Our next panelist is Emre Oğuz Öncül, who is a principal manager in EBRD's Green Economy and Climate Action Team. He is responsible for identifying, structuring, and implementing a wide range of financing products, business development, and policy dialogue projects in line with EBRD's green economy transition approach in Eastern Europe, Southern and Eastern Mediterranean, and Turkey. Prior to joining the EBRD in 2017, he worked as a consultant in the United Arab Emirates and Turkey, having covered a significant number of management and sustainability projects in public and private sectors. He holds a master's degree in energy engineering from Politecnico di Milano, Italy, and a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Johns Hopkins University in USA. Our third speaker is Hakan Birhan, who is the Senior Vice President of Investment Banking Department of Akbank. He joined Akbank in 2008 as a project finance manager and participated in numerous project finance deals, mainly in energy, infrastructure, and commercial real estate sectors. Hakan was appointed as Senior Vice President for the Investment Banking Division in 2018, responsible for the project finance, M&A, and structured loans of Akbank. Before joining Akbank, he was working for international investment and construction companies in energy and infrastructure sectors in Turkey, CIS countries, and Europe. Hakan is a graduate of METÜ Civil Engineering Department and received MBA degree from Boğaziçi University. And our final panelist is Emre Hatem, who is the Director at Investment Banking and Finance Department in Garanti BBVA. He has more than 20 years hands-on experience in project and structured finance, investment banking, and restructurings. He also leads the sustainable finance team of the bank and is the board member presenting Garanti at LYI Telecom. He is also a member of the supervisory board of Turkish Wind Energy Association, TÜREP. He holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Boğaziçi University, along with a master's degree in management from Marmara University, and completed Columbia Business School Emerging Leader Development and Maine University Business Administration programs. So I would like to welcome to you all. And moving forward, I would like to start on the current status of the climate finance in Turkey, particularly with the barriers and opportunities you observe. So I would like to give the floor to Laurent, and then we will have our rounds for answering the questions. Thank you very much, Laurent. Laurent, I'm afraid you are muted.
So thank you very much, Gözde, and good afternoon, good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here today. When it comes to our observations of current status on the climate finance in Turkey, our recent analysis confirms that over the past 10 years, Turkey has been extremely successful in mobilizing and deploying finance for green projects. This has been mostly for climate mitigation, mostly under the impulse of a vibrant banking sector, and including the issuance of green bonds, among other tools. The results are really impressive. Turkey is among the best examples globally for developing renewable energy. Renewable resources account for 70% of the installed power commissioned over the past 5 years. And Turkey ranks 13 in the world regarding installed capacity from renewables. But there are opportunities to grow further and to capture more benefits from green investments. To achieve those benefits, our upcoming report on unlocking green finance in Turkey will suggest that the government could consider putting in place a holistic regulatory and incentive framework to accelerate the greening of the financial sector, to make it more resilient to climate risks, and to help manage the risks which the private sector is facing when investing for climate action. So this report on unlocking green finance was prepared in consultation with the central bank, with the Bank Regulation and Supervision Agency, and with the Capital Market Board. It will soon be issued, and we observe that those institutions have already started taking actions to green the financial sector, which is much welcome and in parallel with the economic reform program. This report will also show that more work remains to be done to attract private capital for climate adaptation. And we look forward to working with Turkey under a new global initiative for enabling private investment for climate adaptation. And it goes without saying that in that context, the World Bank Group, including the bank itself, IFC, working with the private sector, and MIGA for guarantees, remain fully committed to support green investment by the government, by municipalities, and by businesses, with financial resources and technical assistance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Emre Bey from EBRD, can we get your insights on this topic, please?
Thank you very much, Özge, for the introduction and the invitation to the panel. It's very good to be part of this very important topical and timely discussion. To start with, and also echoing my colleagues' comments, there is significant potential in Turkey for climate mitigation and adaptation investments. We do know that Turkey is blessed with renewable energy opportunities, but there is also big potential in the industry, transport, and building sectors for further improvements in energy and resource efficiency. Also, again, echoing my colleagues, adaptation is yet another area with huge investment potential and maybe a relatively more untapped area. Water scarcity, for instance, is a growing issue in Turkey. And looking at the opportunities, another one is definitely the strong willingness from IFIs, from local banks and other international players, organizations. It is indeed great to see friends, colleagues, and partners here today, all with certain commitments or efforts for climate finance opportunities in Turkey. There is also strong willingness from sector players, sectoral associations, clients, investors, and we do witness a wave of sustainable investments. Can it be enhanced? Absolutely, and it should be. On the other side, economic slowdowns and the pandemic are surely the barriers to climate finance. And we witnessed over the last year and a half, the economic recovery from COVID has been the priority, but also we also see the will for a green and resilient recovery. On the political and regulatory front, the world is moving towards a carbon neutrality, phasing out of coal and other fossil fuels. Turkey would surely benefit from certain commitments and adoption of climate-friendly systems or mechanisms. This could include emission trading schemes, like Barış Bey has already mentioned, consistent tracking of climate finance, disclosure requirements, climate risk management by financial institutions, and enhanced MRV systems. Alignment of policies and regulations with international standards and agreements, Paris Agreement to start with, would certainly help. At EBRD, we are trying to address such needs, potentials, and are working towards developing solutions and products for decarbonizing the Turkish economy. And we are also glad to have partners, and first and mostly the Turkish government, right by our side in these goals. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hakan Bey, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Özge Hanım. On behalf of Akbank, I'm really glad and excited to be a part of this event. As Akbank, what we are thinking is climate finance demands have been growing rapidly, and this is what we see from our side. However, awareness and knowledge levels remain low. In private sector, many corporates are trying to act on behalf of this climate finance, but still it has to be distributed to middle and SME companies, and this knowledge, this awareness has to be distributed. Turkey, with all of its organizations, both private and public, we really need to be more ambitious with climate targets in order to be successful in this vital journey. We are a fast developing country, and it is really a timely action, I can say, for a climate, because we did a good job with this renewable energy. All the banks, all the private sector, we all did a good job with renewable. But now it's an old story. I mean, we will continue to do it, and Turkey has to be a renewable country, renewable rich country, but we need to focus on new areas. This is how we look for the future of climate. Having said that, I have to emphasize about the carbon market. When we are talking about the carbon market, it's it's an important financial support for all of our feasibilities. So we believe a strong carbon market should be established in Turkey, and in the future should be very well strongly have connections with the European markets. Another thing which we are excited is the carbon border adjustment, this carbon border tax. We are having increasing demands regarding the exporting companies asking for loans to decrease their carbon emissions. That's an opportunity, when we are looking at that one, and we concentrate on this, and we are trying to offer loans, capex loans, that will help our companies to reduce their carbon emissions. And in the future, which we believe these regulations coming from national level or global level will help all of us to support this climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Hakan Bey. Emre Hatem Bey, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to be part of this important panel and Climate Finance Accelerator program. Well, I think to finance climate change adaptation, I think we should first look into energy sector and renewable energy in detail, because this is the most relevant sector that we should focus on. Since 2002, installed capacity of Turkish power system increased to 97 gigawatts as of today. So very soon, I think we will see 100 gigawatt number, which is a record, an important achievement. In the same period, renewable energy installed capacity rose by 38 gigawatts and taking 60% share in total installed capacity increase. Currently, the share of renewable energy generation went to 40% from 20%. And as of today, 50% of the installed capacity is renewables, and which is higher than the global average of 37%. So Turkey, I think, has an important achievement in that side. Currently, we have an oversupply. There is no risk of meeting the demand. So I think going forward, especially renewable investments will support the transition from fossil fuel-fired plants to green plants. Up to now, $100 billion has been invested in the energy sector, and the banks and most the local banks played a major role in this growth trend, with injecting $65 billion to the sector. What we see from our experience is that, yes, there is a clear success, but the success depends on a very important mechanism, which is YEKDEM, feed-in tariff mechanism, which provided a significant support and comfort to the lenders. So what we think, if you want to increase renewable investments in the future, I think we should continue feed-in tariff mechanism with a price floor, which is crucial for the future of energy sector. When we look to the 2020 numbers, there was a 4.5 gigawatts of new installations in the power system, and it was mostly from renewable sources. This year, again, we expect a similar number, 4.5 gigawatts new installations. However, since the YEKDEM period will expire by June 2021, this month, beyond 2022, we will be seeing lower amount of new installations, maybe 2.5 gigawatts annually. And this will mainly come from mini and mega YEKA projects. What we have to do, we have to, I think, adopt new financing solutions for the new YEKDEM 2.0, which will be, as you know, will be based on Turkish lira. Up to now, it was in dollars, so we have to adapt ourselves to finance those, new renewables. I think we have a huge opportunity right now in the market to transform our production and renewable.
We would like to thank you for the insights. I'm just gonna leave some ground for some time for the question and answers if it's possible. But we appreciate all the information that you have given us. But what I can see from the answers that we are getting is the renewable energy transformation in Turkey is quite good in terms of the capacity and the rate of it. But we still need to respond with the advancements in other sectors as well. Also, although COVID pandemic, it has been hindering the climate action and economic development, it can also be an opportunity for us for the green recovery. As we can see, we can also see that the demand, whether in renewable energy sector or in other sectors, the demand is growing very rapidly in Turkey. But we still some grounds to cover in terms of the capacity and the awareness of the program. What I would like to ask very quick round of questions is that we have talked about some priority sectors, the renewable energy sector in particular, but what type of, looking at the climate finance in Turkey and different project proponents, what type of finance mechanisms from the World Bank, EBRD and commercial banks point of view, what type of mechanisms in Turkey can be applicable? Very quick round of answers would be very much appreciated. Thank you. Laurent, please.
Thank you very much, Özde. As far as the World Bank is concerned, the starting point is that we follow the national priorities of the countries and we support the implementation of national programs. So this means that while selecting projects together with governments, we give priority to those that show the highest impact on improving people's livelihoods, boosting the economy, and promoting environmental sustainability. We also undertake analytical and advisory work to inform upstream policy making with governments. I mentioned the upcoming report on unlocking green finance. We're also working on green growth, and we will soon initiate a report on climate change and development, and probably one on circular economy, which was mentioned by other speakers in this conversation today. So globally, the World Bank recently announced a new climate action plan for the next 4 years. And under this action plan, 35% of all World Bank lending globally will be used for climate action. And of this, 50% will go to climate adaptation. So in Turkey, our portfolio already exceeds the global target. 40% of our lending directly supports climate action. This represents about $3 billion out of $7 billion. We do finance 17 projects that support green transformation in 5 key sectors: energy, transport, cities, agri-food systems, and the financial sector. I'm pleased to announce that 2 new projects were approved yesterday on energy efficiency in cities and climate resilience in rural areas. We also provide grants for technical assistance. And as I mentioned earlier, our sister organizations, the IFC and MIGA, work directly with the private sector and provide guarantees. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Emre Bey, from EBRD point of view, what would you say?
We have recently updated our Get Green Economy Transition approach only last year, and aim to become a majority green bank by 2025. Increasing our climate finance share in all operations to above 50%. As part of the new strategy, we have, and this is quite recent as well, started screening our direct finance projects, for the time being only direct finance projects, for alignment with Paris Agreement, and as well as national climate-related action plans, such as NDCs, long-term strategies, taking into consideration the priorities set in country and sector strategies, of course. So as part of this GET strategy, we have identified 8 main thematic areas for our operations. And we believe in Turkey, we will be focusing on areas such as greening the financial sector, greening energy systems, the power sector, sustainable food systems, sustainable cities, so municipalities for sure, as well as sustainable connectivity. And I'm talking about telecommunications, I'm talking about transportation, and obviously industrial decarbonization. In order to support green low carbon transition, we will be scaling up the deployment of syndications, capital market and guarantee instruments, and we will explore potential co-investments, blending opportunities, co-investment agreements with institutional investors, and blending opportunities with international partners. Much like the World Bank, we are an IFI, we are a multilateral development bank. And we are also offering technical assistance and policy dialogue activities to central governments, local administrations, and to our private clients. In Turkey, we have worked with local financial institutions via our green credit lines, the financing facilities such as TURSEF, MITSEF. We worked with multilateral and bilateral donors to design products such as Green Cities Framework, focusing on municipalities, and circular economy platform focusing on circularity. Going forward, as a development bank, we are blending our financing with technical assistance, policy dialogue activities, and as mentioned, so beyond finance mechanisms, these are going to be quite important going forward, in line with the targets of carbon neutrality and other ambitious targets that Turkey will place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hakan Bey, from Akbank's point of view, how would you respond?
Yeah. For us, I mean, the main aim is to mitigate the environmental footprint while increasing the positive impact. That's the idea for us. And as Akbank, we defined 4 key areas. We are looking for climate change. It's the top priority to mitigate this operational and portfolio emissions. We are trying to achieve it with, sustainable finance. We are caring about ecosystem management and people and communities empowerment. To do so, I mean, I'm talking about focusing on combating with climate crisis. We prefer to call it not climate change, but the climate crisis. We are trying to combat with our products. And we had CapEx loans for transforming businesses to decrease their carbon footprints. We have loans again for rooftop solar panel investments. Also, we are trying to transform businesses from, like transportation, like cement, these are the critical ones for us, from high carbon intensive to less carbon intensive. And one final product from our side, which we are trying to support with our loans, is the innovative emerging technologies that we hope will improve the overall footprint of our country. To do so, with how we assess all these loans, we are having a team for the ESG and the sustainable teams, and they are assessing all these criteria. We determine sector-specific criteria, and also, including to the sector-specific, we have to check the geography of our projects. When we look at the client status, we have to first see their environmental and social risk assessments, and then we are doing their sustainability assessments. And the final idea is to have a product that matches the requirements of the client. So the products which we have has to live together with the projects, the investments, financial viability, and this can be achieved by, of course, good sources of finance, and also has to be supported with regulation.
Thank you very much. Emre Atem, from Garanti BBVA's point of view, we are interested in your opinions as well.
Well, of course, I mean, we are using many products, as Hakan mentioned, to fight with the climate change. Of course, let me name some of them. The most important one would be green loans and green bonds, which is a new product introduced by us. Green corporate loans, green project finance loans. So where the proceeds of the loan should be used in green areas. So that's mainly used in our financings. The other one would be sustainability-linked loans or bonds, where you are not checking the proceeds where it's used or not, but you are having some KPIs, for example, to reduce your emissions, to make an environmental and social assessment system, to have more energy efficiency investments. So if you just commit to reduce your impact on the environment, then you will be entitled as a borrower to get sustainability-linked loans, which would be maybe better in terms of pricing and tenor, etc. So we are trying to support those companies who are eligible for those products. Other one Hakan mentioned is very important: rooftop solar installations, especially for industry. It's now very feasible for self-consumption to invest in a rooftop solar. The payback period is 4 to 5 years. That's why it's really very feasible, and we are trying to support those feasible investments. Other one is green mortgage. So if you have a building where you have the necessary certificate like LEED, BREEAM, or energy efficiency certificates, etc., then if you can show that your building is efficient, then you are entitled to get a green mortgage from us with a lower price. Green auto loans, we are financing hybrid or electric cars, again with better terms, and energy efficiency loans for buildings. We developed a new product to increase the efficiency, to reduce the energy usage of the buildings. Other ones would be social, for example, gender loans. In the world, we provided the first gender loan, which tries to achieve gender equalization in terms of many KPIs. Also, we are supporting women entrepreneurs through our women entrepreneur financing program. So there are many green and social products that now we are offer to our clients, but the need is so much. So we need to source much more to meet the demand.
I think all the answers point to there is a real demand in Turkey, which is still needs to be filled, whether from the World Bank or EBRD or from commercial banks or from other type of investors. What we are achieving right now, exceeding the portfolio target, for example, from the World Bank, is a very good development, but still we are talking about very different sectors that need this type of investment. And for example, Emre Bey, you mentioned building energy efficiency, the BREEAM and LEED certification, which is, there is an untapped potential there for the climate mitigation as well. It's also good to see that we are combining, climate related and gender related sustainability finance mechanisms all together, because they are part of the same equation, honestly. So it's good to see that even by committing to reducing KPIs, that you become eligible for some financial products. These are encouraging developments for the climate finance in Turkey. I would like to pass on to, we have a couple of questions. Again, whether you would like to answer or not, please just raise your hands if you would like to answer these questions. They're coming from our audience. So the first one is from Florian. So how do you see the potential for programs that bundle or group SME activities? Because especially in Turkey, just yesterday we were talking about this, how the SMEs with their limited capacity to access to climate finance or different finance mechanisms, how they can be more active in receiving this type of climate finance products or climate finance for their activities. Please let me know if you would like to answer by raising your hand. Emre Bey, please.
Hello. Well, at EBRD, we obviously have a limited reach to SMEs, given that we have only 2 offices and a staff of about 80 to 100 people. But we are still interested in pursuing opportunities, supporting the SMEs in Turkey or in other countries of operations, with these climate finance, climate investments, climate-related investments. So we are partnering up with local institutions, with commercial banks, commercial leasing companies. Of course, it's great to see both Akbank and Garanti here, and we have been partnering with them over the last decade on certain products. I just gave the example of TURSEF, for instance, which is a product aiming at SMEs in order to address their both mitigation and adaptation investments. So on the SME side, while we are still, we are able to finance directly SMEs as well, but we are also looking at partnerships, local partners, in order to support these investments. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Hakan Bey, please.
Oh,
sorry.
I would like to add some for the SMEs. All this sustainable and climate change products, we have to be sure about their usage. If it's the carbon emission one, we have to put some environmental engineers, some independent auditors to check it. So they are very like project finance loans. It started like 10 or 15 years ago, and there weren't much technical advisors in the market to check them. But now there are many. So really, there is a requirement for good quality environmental engineering service for the banks. In order to achieve this goal for the SMEs, because it comes with the cost. Banks would like to do the best for the climate change, but we have to make it feasible for the SMEs. So I would like to point out that the requirement for this service from the environmental side.
Thank you. Laurent, please.
thank you very much. And apologies, I didn't know how to raise my hand electronically, so I raised my voice.
No worries.
On small and medium enterprises, I'm happy to confirm, like other speakers, that we believe SMEs is really the engine of the economy, especially in Turkey, and is the source of innovation and creativity. So in our portfolio, we have a number of projects that support directly small and medium enterprises. We work through financial intermediaries like TSKB and TKYB. Those operations, some of them were prepared in the context of the COVID recovery. And looking forward, we are thinking of dedicating a full operation to green finance flowing to SMEs in response to their request, working through financial intermediaries. Thank you.
And maybe just a small comment from my side, Lauren. I know that World Bank is actually providing some funding for the green OIZ projects in Turkey, and within the OIZ, the SMEs, they are high in number. So maybe it's also helps to prevent them, go through those type of challenges that they may experience for the climate finance, because there will be, green infrastructure as well as cleaner production type of activities will also be supported, and on and all, directly or indirectly, they also help to mitigate the climate impacts. Emre Hatem Bey, did I see your hand raised? Yes, please go ahead.
Again, regarding green loans or sustainability loans, in order for us to spread those loans to SME sector, I think we should focus on two important factors. One is increase awareness of the SME companies, to educate them, to train them, because those products are sophisticated products. There are certain criteria. And currently, we are mainly working with the corporates and commercial companies to market those products. But now we have to also focus on the SMEs. But in order to do that, we have to launch programs like TURSEF, MITSEF, which is also including some sort of a training part. That's very critical. And the other one is the cost. In those products, you have to get a second-party opinion from certain institutions, and this is a cost item you have to pay for, and this is creating additional costs. So we have to find a way to compensate that cost through a lower cost of funding. And in that respect, I think EBRD is a very critical counterparty stakeholder for us, which is helping all the banks and the sector to provide long-term, reasonable priced, funding.
I think this is a very spot on observation because, you know, you mentioned the training as well as other cost items that needed for the programs or SMEs to, you know, get eligible for this funding or just use this access to this funding. Just as the time goes on, I'm very you know, delighted to have this conversation, to have this discussion, and I would like to go on, but unfortunately we are just right on the schedule for our next part. But I'm very pleased to have you today on our panel, and I'm very grateful for your presence here, for your time and interest in our panel. We are hoping to, you know, get you in our discussions again in future events, that's for sure. So before going through the next presentation about the CFA program and the next steps, we have one final poll question. It's towards the audience. We just talked about the capacity building and need for training maybe for the SMEs, but I think it goes for all the stakeholders. We are still needed that capacity development. So what type of capacity building that you feel is necessary for the climate finance domain? This is our question. So we see that more than half of the respondents, they selected financial structuring the projects. And also we see that project design and pre-feasibility studies also need some capacity building in Turkey. We also see some answers on the blended finance and de-risking, and also matching of mentoring relationships. So some of them we are hoping to address throughout the CFA program, but as we say, the program is just initiated, and as the Ian mentioned, we just hope that it will linger and it will go on in Turkey with the support of very important stakeholders that are here with us today. So our next session is the next steps, are also the announcement for call for proposals. And for that purpose, I would like to invite Ian again to the floor to introduce our next steps for the CFA Turkey program. Thank you.
Thank you, Özge, and my thanks also to panelists who've taken time out of their busy day to join us today, and I appreciate their remarks and insights. I'm conscious of time, so I have just a few further remarks, but hopefully exciting remarks on the actual call for proposals that we're announcing today as part of this launch event. So we can move the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we're launching actually a call for proposals today. This slide really sets out the kind of criteria that we are looking for, the kind of criteria that CFA is targeting. So just to reflect on that, we're looking for projects that will achieve clear mitigation objectives or indeed adaptation objectives, but I know that adaptation projects can sometimes be harder to structure because they often involve significant infrastructure investments. In terms of ticket size, in terms of things that we're looking to support, they need to be of a sufficient scale, and we think a sort of minimum threshold of around 10 million US and above is probably the kind of projects that we will be supporting under CFA, but clearly if there are particularly good exceptions to that, we will look at those. And in terms of the stage of development, they need to be a little bit more than just ideas on a drawing board, albeit I'm sure good ideas. So projects typically that are at pre-feasibility stage in terms of analysis and work that's already been undertaken, some form of business model and some underlying calculations on the risks and returns of the project. And I think that final point there on commerciality is important. There are many great projects that supported by institutions represented on our panel and otherwise that and broader stakeholders in the segment that give grants, but we are looking for projects that will have a commercial return. And we're particularly interested in projects that have a strong impact potential. So in addition to delivering a clear climate benefit in terms of emission reductions over time, we'd also be keen to see projects that might create broader positive impacts. And to give examples of those might be positive impacts around gender, inclusion, or broader social benefits. On the right-hand side of the slide there, you see the process and timetable that we're setting out. The call for proposal will be open from today until the 9th of July. And the CFA team has designed a relatively simple, we hope, and straightforward form to fill in. We'll also be available to you for your questions, and you can select and you can come to us with questions as part of your preparation of your submission. We hope to select projects by the end of July and then look forward to commencing work with successful project proponents in the third quarter of this year. So I think that's all my remarks at this stage. So I want to leave time for our closing remarks. I look forward to your responses, and I should clearly close, of course, by wishing Turkey all the best for their opening football game in the Euros tournament tonight. I know it's a country that likes its football. So my thanks from me at this point, and I'll pass to Özge to take us forward to the remaining steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. So just some simple remarks from the delivery partner point of view. So we would like to underline that the call for proposals is open for proposals from public and private project developers or proponents. While this call is focusing on the climate mitigation outcomes, the co-benefits in terms of climate adaptation and socioeconomic aspects are also valued and welcome, as Ian already mentioned. Also, I would like to ask our participants today to share this call for proposals with their networks to improve our level of outreach, because this is a very open call and we do not have many criteria. We have some criteria for assessment of the projects and shortlisting of the projects, but depending on the size or the sector, so we are not very much limited, and also depending on based on the proponents that we are accepting, we are not very much limited. So I'm kindly asking our participants today to just make us heard, so that we can have more proponents that might be eligible for the program, and that might be eligible to go to the London event and meet with actual financiers, investors. And also, please feel free to reach Ekodenge team through CFA Turkey at ekodenge.com if you need any assistance for the submission process or understanding the survey that you need to fill in for submitting your proposals. You can also follow our website and LinkedIn accounts for further updates. So this is all for call for proposals. And I'm aware that we have started a very good discussion today, but we are limited on time, so we had to, cut it short. But we have to conclude our event. For the closing remarks, I would like to invite the Deputy General Manager for the Directorate General of Environmental Management from Ministry of Environment and Urbanization. I hope he's able to join us today, Mr. Sabahattin Dökmeci. Welcome to our event, and we are happy to have you here. The floor is yours.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum. Sayın Büyükelçi, Sayın Müsteşar, değerli katılımcılar, ben de sizleri şahsım ve bakanlığım adına saygıyla selamlıyorum. Birleşik Krallığın Teknik Destek Programı kapsamında Türkiye ile çalışmaya olan ilgisini görmekten büyük mutluluk duyuyoruz. Sizlerin de bildiği gibi Türkiye, iklim değişikliğinin olumsuz etkilerine karşı dünyanın en hassas bölgelerinden biri olan Akdeniz Havzası'nda yer alıyor. Her geçen gün yaşanan iklim değişikliğine bağlı afetler, iklime dayanıklı altyapının önemini bir kez daha gösteriyor. Buradan hareketle iklim değişikliğiyle mücadeleyi sürdürme yolunda Türkiye'nin ciddi miktarda finansman ihtiyacı olduğunu belirtmek isterim. Bu nedenle ülkemiz iklim değişikliğiyle mücadele yolunda çabalarını hızlandırmak ve güçlendirmek için birçok uluslararası finans kuruluşlarıyla ortaklıklar kuruyor. Çok taraflı kalkınma bankaları, özellikle Dünya Bankası ve EBRD ile başarılı çalışmalarımız mevcut. Ayrıca ülkemiz iklim yatırım fonları ve küresel çevre fonu gibi çok taraflı iklim fonlarından yararlanmada en başarılı ülkelerden biri. Alman Kalkınma Bankası, Fransız Kalkınma Ajansı, Japonya Uluslararası İşbirliği Bankası da iklim değişikliğiyle mücadelede beraber çalıştığımız finans kuruluşları arasında. Tüm bu olumlu gelişmelerin yanında Türkiye, Birleşmiş Milletler İklim Değişikliği Çerçeve Sözleşmesi kapsamında ek bir ülkesi olarak uluslararası iklim finansmanına erişimde zorluklarla karşı karşıya. Sözleşme kapsamında yürütülen müzakerelerde ülkemizin özel koşullarına ilişkin çeşitli taraflar konferansı kararları alınmış durumdadır. Fakat bu kararlar iklim finansmanına erişim için maalesef somut bir çözüm olmamıştır. Halihazırda Türkiye iklim değişikliği rejiminin en önemli finansman kaynaklarından biri olan Yeşil İklim Fonu'ndan yararlanamıyor. Gelişmekte olan bir ülke olarak iklim değişikliği rejimi kapsamında iklimi özel fonlara, teknolojiye ve kapasite geliştirme desteğine erişme hakkımız olduğuna inanıyoruz. Türkiye, iklim değişikliği ile mücadelede üzerine düşen sorumluluğu yerine getirerek birçok çalışma gerçekleştiriyor. 17 Şubat tarihinde Cumhurbaşkanımızın eşi, değerli eşi Sayın Emine Erdoğan hanımefendinin de katılımıyla gerçekleştirdiğimiz iklim değişikliği ile mücadele zirvesinde Bakanımız Sayın Murat Kurum, Türkiye'nin iklim değişikliği ile mücadelede yol haritasını açıklamıştır. Bu kapsamda iklim kanununun hazırlanması, iklim değişikliği eylem planı ve iklim değişikliği stratejisinin 2030 ve 2050 yıllarına dönük olarak güncellenmesi, bölgesel iklim değişikliği eylem planlarının uygulanması, iklim değişikliği araştırma merkezinin kurulması, kamu ve özel sektörün iklim değişikliğiyle mücadele çalışmalarına yönelik teşvik ve finansman imkanlarının geliştirilmesi çalışmalarımızı duyurmuş bulunmaktayız. Bunun yanında Türkiye, ulusal katkı beyanını 2015 yılında Birleşmiş Milletler Sekreteryası'na sunmuştur. Buna göre 2030 yılına kadar sera gazı emisyonlarında %21'e kadar artıştan azaltım hedeflenmiştir. Bu hedef, yerel kaynaklar ve Yeşil İklim Fonu'ndan finansman dahil olmak üzere uluslararası finansal, teknolojik ve kapasite geliştirme desteklerini alacağımız varsayılarak belirlenmiştir. Ulusal katkımız enerji, ulaştırma, sanayi, tarım, binalar ve kentsel dönüşüm, arazi kullanımı ve ormancılık ile atık sektörlerini kapsamaktadır. Bu sektörlerdeki planlar ve politikalar kamu ve özel sektör gibi pek çok farklı paydaşı içermektedir. Bu çerçevede toplantı kapsamında ele aldığımız teknik destek programı, ulusal iklim değişikliği önceliklerimize ve kalkınma hedeflerimize uygun projelerin geliştirilmesinde paydaş koordinasyonunda katkıda bulunacaktır. Gelecekte Birleşik Krallık ve iklim değişikliği konusunda yeni işbirliği alanlarının geliştirilmesi hususunda birçok fırsatın çıkacağına inanıyorum. Bu teknik destek programı gerçekleşmesinde emeği geçenlere teşekkür ediyorum. Tekrar saygılarımı sunuyorum.
I would like to express our gratitude for Mr. Dökmeci to attend our event and supporting, showing the support from the Ministry of Environment and Urbanization side to the CFA program. Thank you very much. So finally, I would like to give the floor to Marianne Young, Minister Counselor and Deputy Head of Mission for Turkey again, for her closing speech. Thank you very much for your support and hosting us for this event. Ms. Young, the floor is yours for your closure.
Thank you very much. Well, dear participants, first I would like to thank the Deputy Director General, Sebahattin Bey from the Ministry of Environment and Urbanisation for joining us for the closing session. The Ministry is a key partner for the UK and our climate work here, and their support to the CFA's implementation in Turkey is most appreciated. As raised many times today, climate finance is the key enabler for the net zero and low carbon transition. A robust climate finance system is essential to achieving this long-term process. As you've heard, there are many barriers to a sustainable flow of climate finance globally. Individual countries have their own specific challenges. Financing local climate action is another key problem. Donors and financial institutions often have difficulties in accessing bankable climate programs and projects, and Turkey is no exception in this regard. We know that climate finance is a particularly important topic for Turkey, and I believe the CFA provides a good platform to bring all the relevant actors together in Turkey. Government officials, project owners, representatives from finance institutions and other stakeholders will all have the opportunity to discuss and identify challenges and build solutions and opportunities. And I'm confident that the CFA will help build a sustainable and resilient climate financing system in Turkey. It will create a sustainable pipeline of bankable climate projects, and it will support Turkey's efforts on energy transition, low carbon. It's this financial system and the action of businesses that will be crucial to keeping the 1.5 degrees target alive. I'm looking forward to watching the CFA enable that and seeing how businesses, municipalities, government and others can work together to unlock Turkey's low carbon potential. So ending here, I'd like to say that its successful implementation depends on active involvement by all relevant stakeholders. And taking this opportunity, I thank everyone who organised this launch event and who will contribute to CSFA activities throughout the programme's delivery. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would like to thank all our esteemed speakers, panelists and participants for their time and interest in CFA Turkey. On our part, it was great to receive such high level of interest from a wide range of stakeholders. So we are hoping to meet you again in our future stakeholder events. Please take care and stay safe. Thank you very much again.